Carla Hernandez lives a life framed by routine and quiet perseverance within the opulent walls of a five-star luxury hotel. Every morning, she dons her uniform and steps into a world glittering with wealth and privilege, a stark contrast to her own modest existence. As a hotel maid, Carla's days are filled with the relentless demands of cleaning, tidying, and maintaining the impeccable standards expected by the resort's elite guests. The glamour of the environment only serves to highlight the invisibility she endures. Guests often glance past her, seeing only the uniform and the role, never the person beneath. Despite the long hours and physically exhausting labor, Carla takes pride in her work. She approaches each task with quiet dedication, understanding that the hotel depends on the staff to uphold its reputation. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly ordinary role, Carla nurtures a secret passion: singing. Music is her sanctuary, a place where she can escape the monotony of her daily grind and express the emotions that her job requires her to suppress. For years, she has kept this gift hidden, unsure whether someone like her, a maid in a world of wealth, could ever break through the barriers to make her voice heard. The disparity between Carla's humble life and the luxurious world around her is impossible to ignore. She watches the wealthy guests pass through the lobby, observing their ease and entitlement with a mixture of admiration and resignation. High-powered business people, glamorous families, and celebrities all seem to belong to a world apart, one where dreams are realized with little effort. In contrast, Carla's dreams remain just that, distant and fragile. Yet, in the quiet moments after her shifts, she allows herself to imagine a different life, one where her voice fills a stage and her identity is more than just a uniform and a job title. Her dream feels both impossible and indispensable. It is a source of hope, a reminder that there might be something beyond the daily struggle. Yet the fear of rejection and the weight of her circumstances keep her dreams locked away, safe from the harsh reality of the world she serves. Carla knows that breaking out of her role won't be easy. Her place in society seems predetermined, and the hotel walls symbolize not just luxury, but a cage. Everything changes the day the Dawson family checks into the hotel. Known for their wealth and arrogance, the Dawsons embody the entitlement that Carla confronts every day, but in a more pointed, personal way. Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, along with their two children, carry an air of superiority, their treatment of the staff laced with disdain. The youngest, Charlotte Dawson, is especially cruel, making cutting remarks about Carla's position as a maid in front of other guests and staff members. Her jokes are not just teasing, they are sharp reminders of the social divide that Carla feels acutely. When Charlotte openly mocks Carla's place during a busy afternoon, the humiliation washes over her. She forces a polite smile, hiding the sting behind practiced grace, but inside, the words echo painfully. It is a rare and raw moment of vulnerability, the kind that comes when years of quiet endurance finally crack. Yet Carla does not retaliate. Instead, she carries the weight of the insult with quiet dignity, burying her hurt deep within. Later that evening, while cleaning the grand ballroom after an event, Carla overhears a conversation that shakes her further. One of the Dawson adults, unaware of her presence, mocks her again, this time with careless cruelty, treating her as a figure of amusement rather than a human being. The words strike a nerve, breaking through the usual protective shell Carla has built. The hotel, with all its grandeur, feels suddenly oppressive, a stage for humiliation rather than service. This moment becomes a catalyst, a breaking point where quiet endurance shifts to a burning resolve. Something inside Carla snaps, not out of anger, but out of a fierce determination to change how she is seen. The humiliation she's carried for so long transforms into a silent vow: she will prove them wrong. Not with words or confrontation, but by showing the world the truth of who she really is beyond the uniform, beyond the judgments, beyond the invisible boundaries that society has drawn around her. The chapter captures the contrast between Carla's humble life and the world of wealth she serves, underscoring themes of invisibility, resilience, and unspoken dreams. It paints a picture of a woman who, despite being marginalized, possesses an inner strength fueled by passion and hope. Carla's secret love of singing is not just a hobby, it is a symbol of her true self, a beacon of light guiding her through the shadows of her daily struggles. As the chapter closes, the reader senses the beginning of a transformation. Carla's silent vow marks the start of a journey, one that promises growth, courage, and the chance to rewrite her story. Though the path ahead is uncertain, the fire ignited within her by the Dawson family's cruelty cannot be extinguished. It sets the stage for a narrative about breaking free from societal limitations, embracing one's talents, and finding a voice where silence once reigned. In this chapter, Carla's world is both ordinary and extraordinary, a testament to the quiet dreams that sustain people in the face of hardship, and the moments of awakening that propel them toward a new destiny. After the incident with the Dawsons, Carla's world shifted dramatically. The sting of their dismissive attitude left her with a deep craving not just for recognition, but for authentic acknowledgement. Up until that moment, she had lived in the shadows, blending into the background of the bustling hotel where she worked. Her presence was barely noticed, her voice rarely heard. But now, an urgent fire kindled inside her. She needed to be seen, truly seen, for who she was beyond the staff uniform and the invisible role she had been confined to. The question was how to break free from the anonymity that had defined her existence for so long. It wasn't until a few days later that the answer began to take shape. The hotel was preparing for its annual talent show, a light-hearted event held for guests and staff alike. This event had always been a jovial tradition, meant to entertain and offer a brief respite from the ordinary. Yet, to Carla, it suddenly presented a golden opportunity. She happened to overhear the Dawson family mocking the idea, their laughter dripping with contempt as they called the event beneath them. For the Dawsons, and guests like them, the talent show was a frivolous distraction, something to scoff at while they maintained their social distance. But for Carla, it was the first real chance she'd had to step into a spotlight, not just physically, but metaphorically. The idea of performing terrified her. Singing was something she had always kept to herself, a secret joy shared only with the silence of her room. She wasn't a trained singer, just a woman who had hummed tunes in the quiet moments of her life. But the chance to use her voice to make it carry across a room full of strangers sparked something daring within her. She began to see the talent show not as a trivial amusement but as a platform, a stage where she could break free from invisibility and speak her truth without words. The hotel staff were expected to participate in the event, and after much internal struggle, Carla found herself signing up. It was a quiet act of rebellion and hope, a declaration that she wanted more than to be overlooked. Yet, the days leading up to the performance were filled with self-doubt. What if she faltered on stage? What if her voice wasn't good enough? What if the guests laughed, or worse, ignored her completely? These questions haunted her, threatening to derail her courage before she even stepped into the spotlight. Despite her fears, Carla pressed on, rehearsing in secret, pouring her heart into the song she had chosen, a ballad full of emotion and longing. It was a piece that mirrored her journey, her struggle for recognition and her hope for something better. Every note she practiced became a small victory against the silence she'd lived in for so long. When the night of the talent show arrived, the ballroom was filled with anticipation. Guests mingled, some curious, others dismissive. The Dawsons were there, their presence casting a shadow of skepticism over the event. They sat with an air of superiority, clearly unimpressed by the idea of hotel staff performing for the crowd. The atmosphere was thick with tension and expectation, but Carla's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. As her name was called, she stepped onto the stage, feeling the heat of the spotlight and the weight of countless eyes upon her. The room fell into a hush, and for a moment, she was frozen. Then, the first notes escaped her lips, a trembling start that slowly grew stronger. She wasn't just singing a song, she was laying bare her soul, channeling every hidden hope, every wound, every fragment of her identity into the melody. With each verse, her confidence swelled. The shaky beginnings gave way to a voice rich with passion and sincerity. The audience, initially quiet and reserved, began to lean in, drawn by the raw authenticity of her performance. The Dawsons, who had sneered moments before, found themselves disarmed by the unexpected depth and power of her voice. Their laughter and judgment gave way to stunned silence as they realized they had underestimated her. For the first time in her life, Carla felt truly seen, not just as a member of the staff or a background figure, but as a person with a story worth hearing. Her song became a declaration of her existence and her resilience, a bridge between who she was and who she hoped to become. The applause that followed was more than just recognition of her talent, it was a validation of her courage, a collective acknowledgement that she mattered. That night marked a turning point for Carla. The talent show was not just an event, it was a new reality, a moment where she reclaimed her voice and presence. She discovered that visibility was not something granted by others but something she could seize by daring to show up and be vulnerable. The experience ignited a spark of self-belief that would shape her journey forward, proving that sometimes, the chance to be seen comes when you least expect it, in the unlikeliest of places, under the brightest of lights. Carla woke the next morning still riding the high of her karaoke performance. The applause from the night before echoed in her mind, a rare moment of triumph that felt almost surreal against the backdrop of her usual quiet existence. Yet, as she moved through her duties at the hotel, a different reality awaited her, one far less forgiving. While arranging flowers near the lobby, Carla overheard a conversation that froze her blood. The Dawson family, gathered with the hotel manager, were speaking in hushed tones, but their words carried the unmistakable edge of condescension. They dismissed her singing as a mere fluke, a one-time lucky accident that didn't merit genuine recognition. Their voices dripped with skepticism and disdain, implying that no matter what she did, she would always be just the maid. The sting of their words cut deeper than any previous insult. It was one thing to be overlooked, but another entirely to be patronized and dismissed so openly. Carla felt the familiar walls closing in, the unshakable reminder that the social ladder she had always occupied was rigid and unforgiving. No matter how brightly she shone for a brief moment, to the Dawsons, she would never be more than the person who cleaned their messes and faded into the background. But instead of crushing her spirit, the mockery fueled a fire within Carla. The humiliation ignited a fierce determination she hadn't known she possessed. She refused to let their narrow judgment define her worth. That day, she made a silent vow to herself: she would prove her talent again and again until it was impossible to deny. Carla threw herself into her singing with relentless dedication. Every spare moment between tasks, every stolen break in the kitchen or behind the hotel's back corridors, was devoted to practice. Her voice grew stronger, more confident, more nuanced. She experimented with new styles, learned challenging songs, and worked tirelessly on her stage presence, even if her only audience was the cold tile floor beneath her feet. Yet, her efforts went unnoticed by the hotel management. Rather than receiving encouragement, Carla found subtle rebukes. The supervisors viewed her musical pursuits as a distraction, a dangerous overstepping of boundaries for someone in her position. There were sideways glances, pointed remarks about knowing your place, and even occasional extra chores assigned, an unspoken message that ambition was not welcome from a maid. The divide between Carla's dreams and her reality widened, but her resolve only deepened. She was no longer willing to accept the role society had cast her in. The Dawsons' casual cruelty became a mirror reflecting the wider obstacles she faced, and with every slight, her hunger to break free grew fiercer. Her resilience was put to the test again when she was assigned to serve at an exclusive VIP party hosted by the Dawson family. The event was dripping with luxury and entitlement, a world Carla had only glimpsed from the margins. As she moved through the ornate rooms, refilling glasses and tidying plates, she felt the weight of the guests' eyes, not with curiosity or admiration, but with cold dismissal. The Dawsons treated her as invisible, an object to be passed over and ignored. When they believed she wasn't listening, their voices dropped into cruel whispers and mocking tones. Jabs about her background, her delusions, and her place in the social order filled the air. The sting of their disdain was sharp and public, a reminder that the world she longed to enter was guarded by walls far thicker than she had imagined. Yet within Carla, the humiliation sparked a profound internal battle. She wrestled with the familiar tug of resignation and urge to retreat, to accept the invisible chains of servitude that had bound her family for generations. But stronger than that was a growing voice that refused to be silenced, insisting that she was more than the sum of her duties. This chapter captures the tension between Carla's two worlds, the one she inhabits, full of expectation and limitation, and the one she dreams of, where her voice and talent could command respect and admiration. The Dawsons' mockery is not just an attack on her singing, it's an attempt to keep her confined, to deny her the possibility of transformation. But Carla's journey reveals that the battle is not simply about proving others wrong, it is, above all, about proving herself right. The dawning realization that her worth is not tied to the approval of the wealthy and powerful becomes the foundation of her resilience. Her music becomes a form of resistance, a declaration that she deserves dignity, respect, and the chance to rise. As the chapter closes, Carla stands at a crossroads. The road ahead is fraught with challenges and setbacks, but her spirit is unyielding. The mockery she endures strengthens her, crystallizing a resolve that will carry her forward. She knows the stakes have risen not just in the eyes of the Dawsons or the hotel, but in her own heart. This is her moment to fight for a future where she is seen, heard, and valued on her own terms. Carla had been practicing in secret for weeks, each day stealing moments whenever she could, early mornings before her shifts, late nights when the world around her was silent. Her voice, once only a quiet escape, had become sharper, stronger, and more confident. The hotel's halls, which had been filled with the sounds of clattering dishes and hurried footsteps, now echoed in her mind with melodies she dreamed of singing out loud. Then, one afternoon, the unexpected happened. A guest, an internationally renowned singer who had attended the hotel's recent talent show, approached Carla discreetly. With a warm smile and genuine admiration, she extended an invitation for Carla to perform at a private event that very weekend. The offer felt like a door opening to a new world, a world Carla had only dared to glimpse from afar. Shock and excitement swirled inside her. This was the chance she had been waiting for, the moment to step beyond the confines of her role as a maid and into the spotlight she had always longed for. But alongside the thrill came a crushing weight of pressure. Success would mean a foothold into a life she had only dreamed of, a validation of her talent and perseverance. Failure, however, loomed like a dark cloud, threatening to shatter any hope she had nurtured. Carla wrestled with the decision. The comfort of her familiar routine beckoned a predictable world where she was unseen but safe. Taking this leap meant vulnerability, risk, and the possibility of public failure. Yet, deep down, she knew that true change demanded courage. The invitation was more than an opportunity, it was a challenge to her to believe in herself and her dreams. After a sleepless night of contemplation, Carla chose to accept. She was determined to prepare for the performance of her life. Every rehearsal became a mission not just to impress the audience, but to prove to herself that she was worthy of this moment. Her voice carried not only notes but years of hope, struggle, and quiet strength. But fate, as if testing her resolve, dealt a harsh blow the night before the event. On her way to the venue, Carla's car broke down miles from the hotel. The rain had started softly but quickly turned into a relentless downpour. Stranded and soaked, her heart sank as she realized no one could come to her rescue in time. She called the hotel, her voice trembling with frustration and despair, but the help she needed was simply not available. Standing on the roadside, drenched and shivering, Carla's confidence wavered. The weight of exhaustion and doubt pressed down on her like the heavy rain. The temptation to surrender to the situation was strong after all. What would it mean if she didn't make it? Would the dream fade away forever? But in that moment of vulnerability, clarity emerged. She reminded herself why she had come this far, why she had spent countless hours preparing in secret. This was her chance not just to sing, but to claim her voice and her place in the world. With renewed determination, Carla stepped out onto the wet road. Each step was heavy, soaked through, and tiring, but she walked with purpose. The distance felt endless, but her resolve was stronger than the storm around her. The cold rain could soak her clothes, but it couldn't drown her spirit. Arriving at the venue, exhausted but undeterred, Carla took a deep breath and focused on the moment ahead. She was no longer just a maid in the background, she was a woman who had dared to take a bold move. Nothing, not fear, not failure, not even the rain could stop her from standing in the spotlight she had earned. That night, when Carla's voice filled the room, it carried more than melody, it carried the power of resilience, hope, and the courage to break free from the shadows. This performance was her turning point, the moment she stepped into her true self and began to transform her life forever. Carla's performance was a revelation not just to the audience, but to herself. As she stood on stage, every note carried the weight of her dreams and struggles, and for once, the world seemed to see her for who she truly was, a gifted artist, not just a maid hidden behind hotel corridors. The applause was thunderous, echoing in her ears long after the final song. That moment felt like a triumph over years of invisibility, a validation of her worth beyond her circumstances. The celebrity who had invited her expressed genuine admiration, opening doors that once seemed forever closed. Yet, as the initial glow of success faded, Carla soon discovered that victory brought its own set of challenges, ones far more complex and exhausting than she had imagined. Invitations to sing at other events trickled in, but the warmth she felt on stage did not translate into genuine acceptance. The elite world she had entered was filled with smiles that rarely reached the eyes and compliments that felt perfunctory rather than heartfelt. Rich guests clapped politely but remained distant, their conversations resuming the moment she left the room. Carla realized that while she had earned a place in their events, she was still on the periphery of their lives, a guest at their parties, but not truly part of their world. The hotel management, recognizing the value Carla's newfound talent brought to their image, began to treat her less like an artist and more like a tool for their profit. They pressured her to perform at increasingly frequent events, often at odd hours or with little regard for her own well-being. The initial excitement of opportunity became overshadowed by exhaustion and a growing sense of being used. Her talent, once a source of personal pride and expression, risked being reduced to mere entertainment tailored for the amusement of others. Carla felt herself slipping into the role of commodity, a performer expected to please but not to be seen or heard beyond the surface. Amid these professional pressures, a darker challenge arose from the Dawsons, who were still stinging from being upstaged by Carla. Their pride bruised by her success, they moved covertly to undermine her progress. Leveraging their social influence, they began whispering to wealthy clients and event organizers, casting doubt on Carla's character and professionalism. They painted her as an opportunist, someone who didn't belong in their circles, hoping to isolate her and stunt her rising career. This shadow campaign made it harder for Carla to secure future gigs, and she started to notice doors closing as quickly as they had opened. Facing this covert sabotage, Carla confronted the harsh realities of fame in a world where talent alone was not enough. She understood that success in these circles was deeply entangled with politics, connections, and power plays forces far beyond her control. Each new opportunity seemed laced with hidden expectations and conditions, requiring her not only to perform but to navigate an unspoken web of social dynamics and rivalries. It became clear that the path she had chosen was fraught with complications that threatened to erode her sense of self. This growing tension wore on Carla's spirit. While the applause and recognition still resonated within her, they were now accompanied by fatigue, frustration, and doubt. She grappled with the question of whether this life, the glamorous yet isolating world of wealth and influence, was truly what she wanted. The dream that had driven her for so long began to reveal its less appealing facets: the loneliness, the compromises, the constant vigilance required to protect one's place. Carla also found herself wrestling with the challenge of staying true to who she was amid these pressures. The warmth and authenticity she carried on stage felt difficult to maintain off it. She feared losing the essence of her identity, the passion that had fueled her rise, as she adapted to the expectations and limitations imposed by others. The distance between her public persona and private self threatened to grow, raising questions about the price she was paying for success. Despite these difficulties, Carla refused to give up. She drew strength from the memory of her performance, the moment when she was seen and heard for the first time in her life. That victory, imperfect and complicated as it was, reminded her of her resilience and potential. She understood that the road ahead would not be easy, but it was one she was willing to travel on her own terms. The chapter captures the paradox of Carla's situation, the exhilaration of achieving a dream coupled with the sobering awareness of the sacrifices involved. It explores the theme that success, especially for those breaking barriers, often comes with unexpected costs: social isolation, exploitation, and the need to constantly prove oneself beyond talent. Carla's story is a reminder that triumph can be both empowering and alienating, a complex balance that requires courage and self-awareness. Her journey also highlights the challenges faced by individuals who rise from humble beginnings into elite spheres, where acceptance is conditional and often fraught with resistance. Carla's experience reflects the broader realities of social mobility, the way that breaking through can expose systemic prejudices and force difficult choices about identity and belonging. In the face of these trials, Carla's determination emerges as the defining force. She begins to envision a future not just shaped by others' expectations but guided by her own vision and values. The applause remains a symbol of her talent and potential, but more importantly, it serves as a beacon of hope and a reminder of what she fights for: not just recognition, but dignity and authenticity. By the chapter's end, Carla is no longer merely a talented performer who has won a competition. She is a woman awakening to the complexities of success and the realities of the world she has entered. The price of victory is revealed not in trophies or applause, but in the ongoing struggle to maintain one's integrity and sense of self amidst external pressures. This nuanced portrait of triumph and consequence sets the stage for Carla's continued journey, one that will demand resilience, wisdom, and unwavering courage. Carla's ascent into the spotlight is accompanied by an intensifying internal battle, where the rewards of fame are shadowed by mounting pressure and relentless scrutiny. As she moves deeper into the elite circles, the demands placed upon her become more insistent and unyielding. The glamorous world that once seemed like a dream now feels like a cage, tightening around her every move and decision. The bright lights and applause mask an undercurrent of expectation that threatens to swallow her whole. The Dawson family, feeling threatened by Carla's growing influence and popularity, escalates their campaign to tarnish her reputation. Their efforts are relentless, seeping into every corner of her life. Rumors spread, whispers echo in high society, and subtle but cruel attempts to undermine her begin to take their toll. Carla finds herself fighting a battle on two fronts, one against the external forces determined to bring her down, and another within her own mind where doubt and fear gnaw at her resolve. This external hostility magnifies Carla's internal conflict, where the tension between her roots and her new identity becomes more pronounced. Her humble beginnings, the simple life of a hotel maid, stand in stark contrast to the glittering but often hollow world of fame she now inhabits. The values and authenticity she once held dear clash violently with the polished image the elite expect her to adopt. This schism creates a profound sense of fragmentation, as Carla struggles to reconcile the person she is with the persona others demand she become. The emotional weight of this divide grows heavier as Carla is faced with a tempting but deeply troubling offer from the hotel, a proposal that promises greater exposure and financial gain but at the cost of compromising her integrity. The offer is seductive, wrapped in promises of prestige and success, yet it comes with strings attached that would force Carla to betray the very essence of who she is. This moment crystallizes the core of her struggle, the choice between staying true to her authentic self or surrendering to the pressures of fame for the sake of advancement. As Carla contemplates this crossroads, the internal battle intensifies. The allure of success beckons, promising stability and recognition, but it also threatens to erode the emotional and moral foundation she has fought so hard to preserve. The fear of losing herself in the process is palpable. She is acutely aware that accepting the offer might lead to external validation but internal emptiness, a hollow victory that leaves her disconnected from her identity. The struggle is not simply about career choices, it cuts deeper into the realm of self-identity and emotional integrity. Carla's journey highlights the complexity of navigating a world where personal values are often at odds with public expectations. She grapples with the desire to be accepted and admired while simultaneously craving authenticity and self-respect. This tension embodies the universal human conflict between conformity and individuality, magnified by the glare of public attention. Throughout this chapter, Carla's inner dialogue reveals her vulnerability and strength in equal measure. She acknowledges her fears, the fear of rejection, of failure, and of losing the parts of herself that define her worth beyond fame. Yet, beneath the fear, there is a resilience and a determination to protect her true self, even if it means risking the opportunities that fame might bring. Her emotional honesty adds depth to her character, portraying a young woman caught in the turbulent space between aspiration and authenticity. The external pressures from the Dawson family and the elite world serve as catalysts, forcing Carla to confront these difficult choices head-on. Their antagonism sharpens her awareness of how fragile her position is and how easily her identity could be manipulated or overshadowed. This opposition, while painful, also strengthens her resolve, pushing her to reflect on what she truly values and what kind of legacy she wants to leave behind. Carla's battle within is emblematic of a broader struggle faced by many who find themselves thrust into unfamiliar worlds of power and prestige. It explores the psychological toll of maintaining one's integrity amid relentless external demands and the loneliness that can accompany such a fight. The chapter does not shy away from portraying the emotional complexity of this experience, the moments of doubt, the temptation to give in, and the fierce desire to hold on to oneself. Ultimately, the chapter captures a pivotal moment in Carla's journey, a defining point where she must choose between sacrificing her identity for fleeting success or embracing the difficult but honest path of self-acceptance. It highlights the cost of fame beyond the glitz and glamour, revealing the profound personal price that often goes unnoticed. Carla's story in this chapter serves as a powerful exploration of identity, integrity, and resilience. It challenges the notion that success is purely about external achievement, instead emphasizing the importance of emotional truth and authenticity. Her battle within is a testament to the courage required to stand firm against the forces that seek to define us from the outside, and the strength found in choosing oneself amid the noise. In this crucible of conflict and choice, Carla emerges as a figure grappling with the complex realities of fame, recognizing that the greatest victory lies not in public acclaim but in the preservation of one's soul. The chapter ends on a note of poignant uncertainty, reflecting the ongoing nature of her struggle and the difficult road ahead as she navigates the treacherous balance between external expectations and inner truth. Carla finds herself at a crossroads, her emotions raw and her spirit tested like never before. The pressure of navigating the world of the elite, the Dawsons and their influential circle, has worn her down to a fragile state. Yet, instead of surrendering to despair or withdrawing from the spotlight entirely, she resolves to take control in a way that surprises even herself. Rather than allowing others to dictate her fate, Carla decides to confront the forces arrayed against her directly and assert her own power on her terms. The Dawson family's persistent schemes have cast a shadow over her career, undermining her at every turn. They view her not as an individual with dreams and talents, but as a pawn in their social game. For Carla, this dehumanizing treatment fuels a growing determination to reclaim her narrative. The idea of retreating into obscurity or fading quietly away is unacceptable. Instead, she crafts a daring plan to challenge the system from within, using the very stage that once symbolized her lower status to proclaim her independence and worth. Her chosen venue for this pivotal moment is the hotel where she once worked as a maid, a place that embodies her past, her struggles, and her resilience. This location is no accident, it holds deep personal significance, serving as a reminder of where she began and how far she has come. By returning here, Carla symbolically bridges the gap between her origins and her ambitions, sending a powerful message that her identity is shaped by her authenticity, not by the elite world's definitions. The grand public performance she envisions is more than just a showcase of her musical talent, it is a statement of defiance and self-affirmation. Carla knows that this event carries tremendous risk, it could either cement her comeback or lead to further backlash. But the potential reward, a reclaiming of her voice and a reshaping of her public image, is worth the gamble. This calculated risk reflects Carla's growth from a woman once paralyzed by doubt into one who embraces the challenge of fighting for her own worth. As she immerses herself in preparing for the performance, Carla experiences a resurgence of passion and purpose. The intensity with which she approaches her rehearsals is fueled not by external validation, but by a deep desire to reconnect with her music and her roots. She sheds the manufactured persona imposed by industry pressures and embraces the genuine artist within. This process becomes a journey of rediscovery, as Carla taps into the emotions and experiences that have always informed her voice. Throughout her preparations, Carla leans heavily on the support of her close-knit team, those who have stood by her through the highs and lows. Their belief in her authenticity and talent reinforces her confidence and helps her maintain focus amid the storm of expectations. Together, they craft a performance that highlights Carla's unique style and emotional depth, ensuring that the event is a true reflection of who she is rather than a product of marketable trends. The chapter also delves into Carla's internal transformation, revealing how her mindset shifts from one of vulnerability to one of empowerment. She moves beyond simply wanting to prove others wrong. Her motivation evolves into a commitment to honor herself and her journey. This psychological shift is crucial, marking the difference between performing to meet external demands and performing as an act of personal liberation. Carla's decision to make this her final plan underscores her willingness to confront adversity head-on. The stakes are high. Failure could mean further damage to her career and public image, while success would signify a powerful reclamation of agency. This tension drives the narrative, imbuing the chapter with a sense of urgency and emotional depth. Readers witness a woman who refuses to be defined by the obstacles she faces, instead choosing to rise above them with grace and determination. The setting of the hotel adds layers of meaning to the unfolding events. It is a place filled with memories of hard work and humble beginnings, a stark contrast to the glitzy venues favored by the elite. By performing there, Carla asserts that true artistry and worth are not dependent on status or wealth. The familiar surroundings offer her comfort and strength, grounding her as she prepares to face the public and the critics who have questioned her legitimacy. As the day of the performance draws near, Carla experiences a mixture of nerves and excitement. This moment represents the culmination of her struggle and the start of a new chapter. The audience she invites is diverse: old friends who remember her before fame, family who have supported her unconditionally, and members of the public curious to see the woman behind the headlines. Their presence embodies the bridge Carla has built between her past and her future. The chapter closes on the precipice of this transformative event, capturing Carla's readiness to step into the spotlight on her own terms. Her journey from doubt to courage is palpable, highlighting the power of resilience and self-belief. She stands not just as a performer seeking applause but as a woman claiming her identity and voice in a world that has tried to silence her. Ultimately, Carla's last stand is a testament to the strength found in embracing one's truth. It is an affirmation that real success comes not from conforming to external expectations, but from the bravery to forge a path authentic to oneself. Through this bold act, Carla redefines what it means to be victorious not merely through fame or approval, but through the courage to choose her own destiny and fight for it without apology. The night was charged with anticipation as guests arrived at the opulent hotel ballroom, a grand venue chosen specifically for Carla's much-anticipated performance. Among the crowd were the powerful and influential, including the Dawson family, whose presence was anything but welcome to Carla. For years, they had looked down on her, dismissed her, and actively sought to undermine her rise. Tonight, however, Carla was determined to show them and the world that she was no longer the woman they thought they could control or belittle. As the lights dimmed, a hush fell over the room. Carla stepped onto the stage with a quiet confidence that belied the storm of emotions beneath her calm exterior. Gone was the timid maid who had once served the wealthy elite. In her place stood a woman transformed by hardship, resilience, and relentless determination. Her eyes scanned the crowd, locking briefly with the Dawsons, who sat with crossed arms and skeptical expressions, clearly expecting a mediocre show. But Carla's performance shattered every expectation. From the very first note, her voice commanded the room, a rich, soulful sound that poured out raw emotion and authenticity. The songs she chose were not just melodies, they were stories of struggle, defiance, and self-discovery. With every lyric, Carla laid bare her journey, the pain of being underestimated, the fight to reclaim her dignity, and the unwavering spirit that refused to be broken. The audience was captivated. Those who had once looked down on her found themselves drawn in by the power of her presence and the sincerity of her message. The Dawsons, in particular, were taken aback. They had underestimated her talent and her resolve. Watching Carla perform with such intensity and grace challenged their preconceived notions and forced them to confront the reality of her transformation. Carla's stage presence was magnetic, commanding attention without arrogance. She moved with purpose, using every gesture and expression to communicate the depth of her story. It was clear she was performing not for approval, but to reclaim her narrative on her own terms. The ballroom, filled with the city's elite, became a space where Carla's truth resonated loudly and clearly. Throughout the performance, murmurs of admiration and surprise rippled through the crowd. Whispers turned into applause, and applause grew into a standing ovation as Carla reached the crescendo of her set. Her final song was a powerful anthem of liberation and self-empowerment, a declaration that she was no longer bound by her past or the expectations others had imposed on her. The Dawsons exchanged uneasy glances, their faces flushed with a mix of disbelief and grudging respect. They realized that their efforts to sabotage Carla had not only failed but had inadvertently fueled her resolve. Carla's triumph on stage was not just a victory in music, it was a symbolic overthrow of the social hierarchy that had kept her confined. As the performance ended, the crowd erupted into applause, the energy in the room palpable. Carla stood tall, tears glistening in her eyes as she took her final bow. The applause was not merely for her talent but for the courage it took to stand before such a formidable audience and claim her rightful place. In the days that followed, Carla's performance spread beyond the walls of the hotel ballroom. Videos of the show went viral, capturing the raw emotion and undeniable power of her voice. Social media buzzed with praise, turning Carla into a sensation overnight. The narrative surrounding her shifted dramatically from the maid overshadowed by wealth and privilege to an artist commanding respect and admiration. Critics who had once dismissed her were forced to re-evaluate their opinions, acknowledging the depth of her talent and the authenticity she brought to her music. Invitations to perform at prestigious venues and collaborations with renowned artists began to pour in, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her career. For Carla, this was more than professional success, it was a profound personal victory. She had reclaimed her identity, no longer a peripheral figure in the lives of the wealthy but a woman fully in control of her own story. The performance was a turning point, a declaration that she would no longer be defined by the limitations imposed by others. The climax of this night was a powerful testament to resilience, self-worth, and the transformative power of authenticity. Carla's journey had been long and fraught with obstacles, but through sheer determination and talent, she had broken free from the shadows cast by her past. The Dawsons, once so certain of their dominance, were left to reckon with the reality that Carla was now a force they could neither ignore nor undermine. Their attempts to suppress her had only amplified her voice, and in that, Carla found not just success, but liberation. As the curtain fell on this pivotal evening, Carla stood illuminated by the spotlight, no longer the maid who served tables, but a woman who commanded stages and hearts alike. Her story was no longer theirs to tell, it was hers, in every note, every word, and every breath she took. This was her showdown, and she had emerged victorious. ChatGPT said, Carla's life underwent a profound transformation following the dramatic performance that revealed her true essence to the world. No longer constrained by fear or the need to conform to expectations, she stepped forward with an authenticity that resonated deeply with audiences. The carefully constructed facades she had once maintained fell away, exposing a genuine artist whose passion and integrity could not be denied. This newfound openness became her greatest strength, distinguishing her in an industry often criticized for superficiality and exploitation. The Dawson family, who had previously wielded considerable influence over Carla's career and personal life, saw their power diminish as her star rose independently of their control. Their attempts to undermine her, whether through subtle manipulation or overt sabotage, failed to stifle her momentum. Carla's resilience and refusal to be diminished by external forces sent a clear message: she would no longer be a pawn in their games or anyone else's. Her growing fan base embraced her sincerity, and her voice both literally and figuratively became a beacon of hope for those yearning for authenticity amid a sea of pretense. With the shackles of imposed expectations broken, Carla began to chart a course that reflected her true values and ambitions. She became selective about the projects she undertook, prioritizing collaborations that honored her artistry and respected her boundaries. Contracts were no longer just financial agreements but commitments to creative integrity and mutual respect. This careful curation of her career allowed Carla to flourish not only as a performer but as a professional who held the reins of her destiny firmly in her hands. Her public image evolved accordingly. Carla was no longer seen as a rising star molded by elite interests, she emerged as a role model and a symbol of empowerment. The media and fans alike celebrated her courage to defy norms and stay true to herself. Interviews and appearances highlighted her journey from humble beginnings to a confident woman who refused to sacrifice her principles for fame. Through this, Carla inspired others to pursue their passions with honesty and resilience, proving that success need not come at the cost of one's soul. Beyond the spotlight, Carla reconnected deeply with the community that had nurtured her early dreams. She understood that her journey was not just a personal triumph but also a beacon for others facing similar struggles. Using her platform and resources, she dedicated herself to mentoring young talent, especially those from underprivileged backgrounds who often lacked opportunities and support. Carla's efforts extended beyond mere guidance. She became an advocate for inclusivity and equity within the industry, working to dismantle barriers that had once hindered her own progress. This act of giving back was not born from obligation but from a sincere desire to uplift others. Carla saw in these young artists reflections of her own aspirations and challenges, and she committed herself to fostering their growth with the same kindness and encouragement she had longed for. Through workshops, scholarships, and personal mentorship, she created pathways for emerging voices to be heard and valued. Her impact in this arena solidified her legacy as more than just a performer. It made her a catalyst for change and a champion of authentic expression. Carla's personal growth mirrored this outward transformation. The naive maid who once sought validation from the elite had blossomed into a self-assured woman grounded in her identity and purpose. Her past struggles no longer defined her but served as the foundation upon which she built a life of meaning and integrity. She learned to embrace vulnerability as a source of strength and to trust her instincts in navigating both personal and professional realms. The resolution of her story captured this holistic transformation. Carla's success was not just measured in contracts signed or applause received, but in the profound peace and confidence she now embodied. The narrative closed with a powerful image of her stepping into the future, one where she held full agency over her life and career, having proven to herself and the world that perseverance coupled with authenticity could overcome any obstacle. This new beginning was a testament to the power of self-belief and the courage to stand firm against pressures to conform. Carla's journey illuminated the truth that genuine success arises from staying true to one's values and forging connections rooted in respect and honesty. Her story offered a hopeful vision for others striving to break free from limitations and pursue their dreams on their own terms. Ultimately, Carla's path was a reminder that transformation is possible for anyone willing to embrace their truth and persist through adversity. Her triumph was not just personal but universal, a beacon for those who dare to defy expectations and create lives of purpose and fulfillment. The story closed with Carla not as a figure shaped by external forces but as a woman who had reclaimed her narrative and walked confidently into a future she had chosen for herself.